You are absolutely not ready for John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. Saber Interactive's cooperative shooter is a potent mix of excellent mechanics and some absolute chaos on the battlefield, with a unique vibe that lets it stand out from its peers. When we first heard of John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, Saber Interactive's upcoming take on a shooter involving cool vehicles, cooler guns, and terrifying zombie hordes, we gotta admit we were a bit skeptical. Another shooter in a crowded genre wasn't really calling to us after all. But we're happy to say that things have changed since then, and Toxic Commando is a title that takes the tried and tested co-op shooter formula and makes it interesting. It could very well be quite hard to put down. There are zombie hordes coming at you, brought to life by the very same engine that made the Tyranids such a terrifying threat in Space Marine 2. The vehicles and how you use them in the field are crucial to the success of your missions. Your squad mates are a bickering bunch, their banter often relieving the tension while keeping you invested in their safety. However, Toxic Commando's vibe goes beyond its gameplay elements and how well they all work together. It lands because it's presented so well, the chaos that's baked into its very DNA being framed by its premise and the agency it gives to its players. And it all comes together into an experience that can have you putting down your controller after a particularly intense run, wondering what the hell just happened. How does the game achieve that balance between its many elements, though? Well, that's what we're here for. Let's dive in. A premise that facilitates chaotic gameplay. Let's begin with what we know of the story. You're one among a bunch of misfits whose skills with their weapons far outweigh their social ones, forced to work together in the face of a challenge. The zombie hordes were once your fellow citizens of Earth, and you and your team must now mow them down as the planet's last line of defense. But there are a ton of zombies to take out, and the rules of conventional warfare have been tossed out the window. What's left is a battlefield in which you're allowed to get as inventive as you please when dealing with the threats around you. Your opponents have the numbers, but with the entire battlefield as a stage upon which you practice the art of killing...
You could say the resident is evil, okay.
Using it to your advantage is all but necessary. It's a premise with a lot of promise to bring some spectacular action set pieces to the table, Saber's swarm engine being more than capable of rising to the occasion. But more than that, it's the perfect narrative frame for a gameplay loop that thrives when its players begin to push the boundaries of what they can do when they're out on missions. That's also reflected in how the player classes and their respective abilities are built to work together, but can manage quite well on their own in the hands of skilled players. Your team could choose a balance between the two, tackling a few objectives solo and meeting back up to take on a bigger challenge. The context of what you're doing becomes as important as to what you do on your missions in Toxic Commando, making it quite immersive as a result. Of course, there are the missions themselves. Maps made for mayhem. Everything we've seen of the game so far points to mission structures and level designs that work well together to support unpredictability. It's a facet of the experience that underlines every moment of its gameplay loop, being deliberately baked into the game's design as a pillar that props it up. Many shooters give you ways to take on multiple enemies, but what happens when those enemies just swarm you with eye-watering numbers, overwhelming you with ferocity and relentless aggression? Well, Toxic Commando has you finding new ways to answer that question, with even simple objectives often transforming into full-blown encounters against zombie hordes that don't stop coming. Believe us when we tell you that the sheer panic you're going to feel when you stand your ground and aim down the sights of your barrel at an upcoming wave of zombies is real, and it's going to mess with your aim. The game forces you to make errors and then regain that lost momentum by switching up your...
This game is Toxic Commando, which comes out on Thursday, and it's basically World War Z 2.0, so I'm very fucking excited. Oh my god, it's gonna be good.
Approach. Even early missions in this one are built on that principle, incorporating an almost constant need to think on the move and execute any plans with precision. For instance, an act as simple as waiting for an elevator in one of the early missions quickly becomes a firefight against the zombie horde in which your only objective is to survive until you're able to make your escape. Knowing what we know about the world state from a narrative standpoint, along with how the game's soundtrack dynamically paints the unfolding tension, made the fight feel far longer than the 30 or 40 seconds it actually took for the elevator to get to us, and it took far longer for our nerves to settle back down. However, moments of calm are few and far between in Toxic Commando, and we think most of you are going to be quite glad to be playing it with your friends. The way its missions are structured, along with how its level design supports fighting off zombie hordes without making things unfairly tilted towards either side, feels so engaging, it's quite hard to stop playing it. You keep expecting something to go wrong, and the world takes Murphy's Law quite seriously. It's often when you feel like there's a moment of respite that disaster strikes you and your squad, forcing you to fight back and snatch every possible advantage to guarantee your survival. Controlling chaos in the field. At its core, Toxic Commando isn't just making you fight to control space on the battlefield, it makes you try and control the ebb and flow of battle, turning every dire situation to your benefit in the midst of some frenetic gunplay. You might load into a mission with a clear game plan, your team feeling ready to take on whatever challenges are lying in wait. Your plans are going to be thrown to the wolves sooner than you'd care to admit, and so often that you're going to ponder about saving some time and just winging it once you spawn in. And that's precisely where Toxic Commando truly shines. You're required to be ready to discard your strategy at the first sign of trouble, and then use anything and everything you find along the way to ensure you're getting to where you're going. Your squad is a bunch of misfits, each of them meant to be
God, I'm so excited. Okay, let's switch over to